My fiancé stated firmly. Either accept an open relationship or the wedding is off. I smiled and replied, all right, no problem. Then I immediately arranged dates with her closest friends and flaunted my newfound freedom. Seeing this, she panicked and begged me to call everything back. Hello, my name is Henry. I am a 28-year-old living in the bustling city of Austin, Texas today. I'm going to tell you a story about a major life choice and how I handled the fallout. I walked away and left her sitting there looking like a fish out of water. The moment I was out the door, the calmness I projected started to crack. It hurt like hell 5 years, and this is what it came to, an ultimatum. But if this is what she wanted, if this was her test or whatever nonsense she was pulling, then fine, game on. It all started a week ago when my fiancée Annie dropped a bombshell. She said she needed to have an open relationship or the wedding was off. My immediate response was, okay, fine. I agreed to her terms and things got interesting. The next day, Annie was still acting weird, like she couldn't believe I hadn't thrown a fit. She tried to lay out some ground rules, but they were vague things like be respectful and be honest. It was clear she hadn't thought this through beyond her own desires. I just listened, nodded, and agreed to her very loose terms. No curfews, disclose if asked, use protection. Just basic stuff. She seemed to think that since she was the one who asked for this, she would be the only one to act on it, or at least be the first. This is where it gets interesting. She made the rules, I was just playing the game. I have a pretty good memory for conversations, and over the years, Annie had often mentioned which of her friends had crushes on me or made comments, not in a jealous way, but more like a can you believe Maya said you had nice arms kind of way. I filed those comments away. The first thing I did after our talk was reach out to a few people. On Wednesday evening, I casually texted a few of her friends. First, I messaged Sophie, a 30-year-old friend of Annie's from college who was always bubbly and friendly. Hey Sophie, random question, you busy Friday night? Annie and I are trying this open relationship thing, and I figured I'd see if you were free to grab a drink. Her reply was almost instant. Wait, seriously? Annie agreed to this, and OMG, yes, I'm free. Next, I texted Isabella, a 32-year-old colleague of Annie's, a bit more reserved, but we had always had good conversations at group events. Hey Isabella, hope you're having a good week. Annie and I have decided to explore an open relationship for a bit. Any chance you'd be interested in dinner on Saturday? Isabella's reply took about an hour. That's unexpected from Annie, are you sure? But yes, dinner sounds intriguing, I'm in. Finally, I reached out to Maya, a 31-year-old childhood best friend of Annie's. This was the boldest one because Maya is quite outspoken. Maya, long time no see properly. Quick heads up, Annie and I are opening up our relationship. Wondering if you're around for coffee or something stronger next week. Maya didn't text back, she called me. What in the actual hell? Annie suggested an open relationship. Is she insane and you're asking me out? She set the terms. I said calmly, I'm just seeing who's interested in a no-strings coffee or a drink, her idea, her rules. Maya was silent for a moment. Then she laughed, a genuine loud laugh. You magnificent man. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm horrified or impressed or both. Let me think about it, but damn, text me next week. Spoiler. She agreed to a let's see drink for Tuesday. So I had 3 dates lined up with her friends. I didn't say anything to Annie right away. I just let her see me on my phone. A bit more, smiling a little. She kept giving me suspicious looks. On Thursday evening, I mentioned casually, oh, by the way, I've got a few plans this weekend, just giving you a heads up. Plans? She asked with a weird edge to her voice. What kind of plans? Just grabbing a drink with Sophie tomorrow night, dinner with Isabella on Saturday, and maybe coffee with Maya next week. I said it like I was discussing the weather. The color drained from her face. My friends, you asked out my friends? Yeah, I said, is that a problem? We're open, remember your idea? She sputtered, but I didn't mean I didn't think you'd actually with them. Why not? I asked, genuinely curious at this point. They're attractive, interesting people, and they were available. She just stared at me, mouth opening and closing. The entitlement was rolling off her in waves. She clearly thought this open relationship was a one-way street, a free pass for her while I was supposed to sit at home miserable. The shock on her face was, well, it was something. Things escalated predictably. After I told Annie about my upcoming dates, she lost it. Not in a screaming way, but in a very panicked, this is not how it was supposed to go way. You can't do this. She insisted, her voice tight with barely suppressed hysteria. Why not, Annie? I asked, keeping my tone deliberately mild. You wanted an open relationship. These are the mechanics of an open relationship. Or did you have a different definition in mind, one where only you get to be open? She flinched. No, that's not it. It's just my friends. It's disrespectful. Disrespectful to whom? I countered. To you for taking you at your word, or to them? They all said yes, by the way, and seemed pretty happy about it, actually. That last part really got under her skin. The next 24 hours were a barrage of texts and calls from her. We need to talk. This isn't what I meant. You're trying to hurt me. You have to cancel those dates. I mostly replied with variations of, Annie, you were very clear. Open relationship or the wedding is off. I chose the open relationship. Are you now saying you want to call off the wedding? That usually shut her up for a bit. The idea that I might be the one to pull the plug on the wedding based on her ultimatum clearly terrified her, but not enough to actually admit she'd made a massive miscalculation. Then came the flying monkeys. First, her brother William, 34, called me. William is usually a decent guy, but he's fiercely protective of Annie. Dude, what are you doing? He started. Annie's a wreck going on dates with her friends, seriously. William. I said Annie gave me an ultimatum, an open relationship, or she wouldn't marry me. I agreed to her terms. What's the issue? Yeah, but an open relationship doesn't mean you go actively try to hook up with her entire social circle. It's about exploring if the need arises, he sounded, like he was parroting something, so the need should only arise for her. I asked, and when it does, who should she explore with strangers? My friends, what are the acceptable parameters here, William, because Annie was pretty vague. He got huffy. You're being an ass about this. She made a mistake, okay? She didn't think you'd react like this. Then she shouldn't have issued an ultimatum she wasn't prepared for me to accept. I said, I'm just following the rules she laid down. If she wants to change them, she knows how to talk to me, but so far all I'm hearing is that I'm the bad guy for agreeing with her. William grumbled some more about me not being fair and making things difficult before hanging up. Apparently me being fair meant I should just roll over and accept her demands, without exercising the same freedoms myself. The entitlement is strong in that family. Annie then tried a different tactic, tears. When I got home from work on Friday, just before I was supposed to meet Sophie, she was on the sofa sniffling. I can't believe you're actually going, she whispered, her eyes red. Annie, I said, sitting down a small distance away. I'm doing what you said you needed. If you've changed your mind about wanting an open relationship, you need to say so. And if you do, we need to discuss what that means for the wedding, because your ultimatum was pretty clear. But I don't want this, she cried. I don't want you dating Sophie or Isabella or Maya. So you want to call off the open relationship? I pressed. Yes, no, I don't know, she wailed. I just want you to not go. That's not how this works, Annie. I said, standing up. You set the terms, I'm adhering to them, I'll be back later. And I left. The look on her face was a mixture of fury, despair, and utter disbelief. The date with Sophie was nice. We had a couple of drinks. She admitted Annie had been acting erratically lately and was surprised by the whole open relationship thing, but also said Annie had always been a bit of a grass is greener type. Sophie was fun, easy to talk to. Nothing physical happened beyond a hug goodbye, but it was a pleasant evening. She did say Annie is going to lose her mind when she hears you actually went through with this. I just shrugged. Annie was waiting up when I got home, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. So how was your date? She asked, sarcasm dripping. It was pleasant, I said, keeping it brief. Sophie is good company. Did you sleep with her? Annie, that's really not something I'm going to discuss in detail, just like I wouldn't expect you to detail your encounters. We agreed on disclose if asked, but not a full interrogation. It was a first date, a drink, that's all. She looked like she wanted to press, but I just went to the bedroom. The atmosphere was ice cold. My dinner with Isabella on Saturday night went ahead as planned. Isabella is sharp and she pretty much called Annie's bluff. From the get-go, she thought you'd fold, didn't she? Isabella said over appetizers. Annie loves the idea of being desired by everyone, but she wants you as her safe, stable backup. Ouch, but accurate. Dinner was great. The conversation flowed easily. Again, nothing physical, just good company. Isabella did mention Annie had called her earlier that day trying to get her to cancel the dinner and feeding her some story about how I was misinterpreting things and acting out. Isabella, to her credit, told Annie that I'd been perfectly clear and that Annie was the one who'd initiated the open relationship idea. When I got home Saturday night, Annie was furious. This time it wasn't just panicked tears, it was anger. You're enjoying this, aren't you? she seethed. You're deliberately trying to humiliate me. Annie, I'm literally just doing what you asked, or rather, what you demanded as a condition for our marriage. I said, tired of the same circular argument. You wanted open, this is open. If you wanted a monogamous relationship, you shouldn't have issued an ultimatum saying otherwise. But I want us, she cried. I want you. I made a mistake, a huge mistake. Can't you see that? I see that you tried to manipulate me, I said, and for the first time my voice was hard. You put a gun to the head of our wedding expecting me to beg you to put it down. Instead, I said, okay, your terms. And now you're shocked that I'm actually following through. So that's it, she asked, her voice cracking. You're just going to keep dating my friends. You're going to destroy our relationship and my friendships to prove a point. Our relationship was pretty much on life support the moment you gave me that ultimatum, Annie. And your friendships seemed to be fine. Sophie and Isabella both seemed to understand the situation perfectly. They were more confused by your actions. Then came the big one, her mother. What about her? Let's call her that, it fits. She called me on Sunday afternoon. I was expecting it. I am so disappointed in you. Deborah began, her voice dripping with condemnation. Annie is heartbroken. How could you be so cruel as to flaunt other women in her face, especially her own friends? Deborah, I replied, trying to keep my patience. Annie told me she needed an open relationship or the wedding was off. I agreed to her terms. I'm respecting her stated needs. But she didn't mean it like that, Deborah insisted. She was just confused. Young women get confused before their weddings. You should have been the bigger person, reassured her. Not taken her literally and run off with her friends. The sheer audacity. So I was supposed to psychically know that her explicit ultimatum wasn't what she really meant. And being the bigger person involves letting her dictate terms that only apply to her. I don't think so. Deborah, Annie is a grown adult. She made an adult decision, and she's now seeing the adult consequences of that decision. Deborah huffed about how I was immature and vindictive and how I was ruining everything she said. Annie was now saying she wanted to call off the open relationship and the wedding because I had betrayed her trust by doing exactly what she had insisted upon. The mental gymnastics were at an Olympic level. Annie herself has been alternating between sobbing apologies, angry accusations that I've planned this all along to get out of the wedding, and desperate pleas to just make it stop. She said she wants to call off the open relationship. Okay, I said, we can call off the open relationship, but Annie, the ultimatum you gave me, that's not something I can just forget. You were willing to end our marriage over this supposed need. What happens next time you feel confused or need more? She had no answer, just more tears. My date with Maya was the next day on Tuesday. Maya texted me that morning. Heard the drama is epic, still on for that drink? I'm bringing popcorn, metaphorically speaking. I am still calm, but underneath, yeah, there's a part of me that's just done. This wasn't a simple miscommunication. This was a calculated move by Annie, expecting me to crumble. Her shock wasn't that the relationship was open, it was that I was participating. The wedding was looking less and less likely. Not because of the open relationship, but because the trust was just gone. She showed her hand, and it was not a good one. It's been a whirlwind, but I guess it's time to close this chapter. It's been a month. My drink with Maya happened. It was enlightening. Maya is incredibly blunt. She basically confirmed what Isabella hinted at. Annie has a history of this kind of thing, testing boundaries, wanting what she can't have, and expecting others to adjust to her whims. Maya didn't hold back on her opinion of Annie's ultimatum, calling it incredibly stupid and selfish. We actually had a decent time, no romance, just a very honest conversation. Maya did say she was surprised I called Annie's bluff so thoroughly. Most guys would have either freaked out or just sulked, she commented. After that meeting, I sat Annie down. No more games, no more tears from her side being the main event. Annie, I started this whole open relationship thing. You said you wanted to call it off. I agree, it's off. A flicker of hope in her eyes, but I continued, the fact that you issued that ultimatum, open relationship or the wedding, is off. That's the real issue here. You were ready to throw away 5 years, our entire future, because you supposedly needed this, and when I called you on it, your only problem was that I was also partaking, not that the premise itself was damaging. She started to interrupt. I didn't mean for you to. It doesn't matter what you meant for me to do, Annie. I cut her off calmly but firmly. It matters what you said, what you demanded. You showed me that you're willing to detonate our life together on a whim, or As a manipulation tactic, I can't build a marriage on that foundation. So yeah, I told her the wedding is off for real this time. From my end, her reaction was a lot, first disbelief, then anger. How dare I call it off after she was the one willing to forgive me for my awful behavior? Her words referring to me dating her, friends which she demanded I'd be free to do. Then came the begging, the promises. It would never happen again, that she'd learned her lesson. Her brother William tried to intervene again, saying I was overreacting, that all couples have these pre-wedding jitters and weird fights. I told him this wasn't jitters, this was a fundamental betrayal of trust and a display of appalling selfishness from Annie. Even her mother called my mom to try and get her to talk some sense into me. My mom, bless her, told Deborah that I'm a grown man who makes his own decisions, and that from what I'd told her, Annie had made her bed and now had to lie in it. The fallout for Annie has been significant. Sophie and Isabella are definitely keeping their distance from her. They both told me separately that Annie tried to badmouth me to them, painting herself as the victim, but they saw through it. Maya was never one to mince words and apparently told Annie exactly what she thought of her actions, which wasn't pretty. So Annie's power play not only cost her the relationship but also severely damaged her friendships. Good. That's what happens when you treat people like pawns. We're in the process of disentangling everything, canceling vendors, figuring out who gets what from the apartment. We're both moving out. No way I'm staying there. It's messy and expensive, but honestly, every cancellation fee is a small price to pay for dodging that bullet. I've had moments of sadness for the relationship I thought we had. A little bit of anger still lingers, sure, but mostly relief and a strange sense of calm. I didn't explode. I didn't beg. I just took her at her word, played by the rules she set, and let the natural consequences unfold. She engineered her own downfall. I'm not looking to date anyone right now. Definitely not any of Annie's former friends. That was just a means to an end, a way to mirror her own stated desires. They were all cool about it and understood the dynamic. I'm focusing on myself, hitting the gym and reconnecting with my own friends, moving on. Annie, from what I hear, is miserable. She's apparently telling anyone who will listen that I'm a cold, manipulative monster who tricked her. Some of her more distant acquaintances might believe her. Her family, predictably, supports her narrative, but the people who mattered, the ones who saw it unfold, or were directly involved, they know the truth. She gambled, she lost, end of story. Thanks for letting me vent. It's been weirdly therapeutic laying it all out. Onwards and upwards, I guess. If this video made your day better, make ours by hitting subscribe.